installation. So we proceed to this guided tour, software release ISO guided tour of the Web GUI and CLI. Okay. So all configuration that needs to be done can be done via the Web GUI, right? And you need to make sure that before you provision all the necessary information like the IP address, the routing, the firewall rules are already allowed, right? And there's also other information that you will require. For example, if you need to authenticate the administrator access to the solid server using AD, right? This is to manage the solid server, then you need to allow those information or the IP addresses or firewall rules to be allowed in the first place, right? It is also important to have an accurate IP address plan, right? For example, customers that are using spreadsheets, they usually do not have IP address plan. It's just networks after networks per spreadsheet, for example. So you need to understand a little bit more deeper into the structure and the hierarchy of the information before you configure the solid server. This will really help you understand visually how the whole architecture or the whole network environment is being set up in that particular customer environment, right? Also, the DNS and DHCP architecture, for example, you know, the Microsoft, the bind, the type of the DNS master slave or master, all this information needs to be provided by the customer. So at least you know how to craft it out on the UI of the solid server. Okay. So this is the initial page that you will see when you log in, right? So the default username and password is always IPM admin, and the password is admin. This is the super administrator, right? And my advice or my best practice is always to log in as this user, create the users for the username for each of the clients that will be accessing the administrate this solid server, and then assign them accordingly, right? I have encountered a few customers where they make changes using this default username and password, and then when issues happen, they do not want to be responsible for anything and blame on the one that access it, or especially the contractor that, you know, configured this solid server as the one that make the changes. So it's always safe to create accounts for them and tell them when they log in, use this account. So any changes that they make can be monitored, and if there's a blaming game taking place, you can show them proof what was the changes being made. Okay. So once you log in, you will see the main dashboard, right? And this main dashboard contains the configuration checklist. So basically, these are some of the stuff that needs to be set first before you proceed to perform the other stuff, right? Most importantly is the local solid server, right? You need to configure this part. NTP servers is also important, and changing of the IPM admin password, SSH password, right? These are the critical ones. If you look on the right column, this is where you will request for a license, right? At this point of time, there will be no license installed, so you will need to request the license, and a string of a license string will be generated. So you need to email it to me, and I will generate a license for you. So once I provide you with the key, you can say we click add license over here and then start to perform the other stuff. So as you can see, when you have no license installed, there is no other things that can be done here over here. You cannot access the IPAM, you cannot set any DNS, DHCP services. It's basically empty, right? So you need to have a license before you can proceed to configure all the other services. Okay, so this one I will run through the UI. What are they actually called, right? So from the user interface layout, from this page, you can see we have the top bar over here, right, which has the global search. These are notifications, and this is your IP admin or the user login, logout details plus settings that you can set over here. This is our help. So in case you need to access the Solid Server administrator, straight away click this button and it will straight away pop up a PDF file containing the admin guide. Right. On the left, this particular column is the sidebar. Oh, sorry. This is called the sidebar, and this is where it will contain all the other modules when you install a license. Okay, so this icon is the dashboard, the main dashboard icon, and this is the administration icon. When you click this button, these three lines, it will actually expand the sidebar with some text to show you what these are actually means. Okay, so the toggle button, as it's called, will expand and collapse. So when you click on it, it will expand, and instead of just showing the icons, it will have these names beside it, and also allows you to expand or go inside into, for example, this is the DHCP module. When you expand, it will show you all these other menus available under DHCP. Okay. So these icons will only appear when you have the modules. So by default, it's IPAM, DHCP, and DNS. This is net change. I think this is the application control or GSLB. This is device manager. I can't remember what is this. But when you have the license for these modules, it will appear over here. This is the workflow module. So the default mode is collapse. You can actually click on this and then a menu appears to show you the sub-menus for this particular module, DHCP, for example. Right, so you can immediately hit or proceed to the individual sections that you want to access. Okay, when you expand, the same thing. You will just expand with the words, and then the submenu will appear under it. So this allows for you to be flexible. So if you have a big resolution of big monitor, of course you can set this expanded mode. Then for those that require that has a smaller space to view, you can just use this collapse mode. Right, so when you have the collapse mode, you can actually see more information, right? But when you use expanded mode, at least this part or this portion of the screen will be used up by the sidebar, and you will have a smaller viewing area over here. So you can see the difference. Let me go back. This is the collapse mode, right? And this is the compress or the expanded mode for the sidebar, but compressed table view. So dashboards, when you remember when you log in and you access the dashboard, is customizable. You can add in gadgets, we call it, on the dashboard. For example, the QPS or the LPS, the liters per second graph. Everything can be added in there. So there are 5 kinds of gadgets that exist internally. You can add a bookmark, the quick wizard, quick search, top list, and a chart. Right? And you can position them as how you want into the dashboard. Right? So in the main dashboard, you can see there's additional dashboards in here. So you can specify, for example, the DNS queries per second graph to appear in the DNS dashboard, right? And then DHCP related stuff can be placed in the DHCP dashboard, right? So it allows you to customize what you want to see. By default, it is empty. When you want to add the graph, we have the ability for you to select which particular graph that you want and place it into the which dashboard that you want it to appear in. Right. So by default, this is in the administrator main dashboard. You will appear this, and then other gadgets or additional gadgets will be shown under general information. Okay. So like I mentioned, the system information is information about the licenses, right? And the type of product. For example, this is the VMware. So it will show you here the VMware platform. And then general information will quickly allow the administrator to see, oh, which services is working or is active and which services are not being used. Or if there's any problem with the services, it will show here as an error or stop. Over here is showing DNS and DHCP is not working. Right, so can you from the main dashboard, you can actually see whether the services are running properly or not. And from here, you can actually click on each of these services listed over here, and it will bring you to the services page. So over here, you can see what's going on and why the services is being stopped, and you can start to enable it from there. So to add a gadget, right, you can proceed to select the dashboard. Remember, there's a list of dashboard that you want. So you select it, click on the plus sign, and then you fill out a form on what is the gadget that you want to add. So let me show you one by one again. So you click on the plus sign, and it will ask you what you want to add, the type of gadget, and then the gadget that you actually want. Okay, these are the predefined ones. Some of the gadgets may not appear here, but you can still add it into the main dashboard. So once you select, for example, in this example is system threads usage, select it, click OK, and it will appear on the system dashboard over here. So this is the system dashboard that was selected and appears here. Again, if you want to add more, just click on this button or proceed to some other pages that has this icon. You can actually click on it to pin it to the dashboard. Okay. Key commands from the top bar, still on the UI. So I mentioned earlier, this is the notifications. It will show you what are the changes that was being made, the actions. For example, over here, a file was uploaded and then deleted. So it goes from down up, actually. So an object here was deleted, a file was uploaded, and a file was deleted again. Right. And then this one, user settings, when you click on it, this menu will appear, and you can set the languages, the date and time format from this my settings. Right, these are customized user objects management, and this is the lockout menu. And next is the question mark over here, which will show you the admin guide plus the license agreement. So CLI access, if you are using Windows, then you will require PuTTY or some other compatible terminals. If you're using Windows 10, you can actually install the WSL, like Ubuntu or something, and you have the terminal that you can access directly, something which like what I'm using right now. So SSH with the login as admin, because we don't allow SSH via root by default, and log in as admin with the password admin. Right, again, if you are putting this into a production, change the password. And then you will also see the same CLI interface over here. The same menus will appear, and you can actually access the shell by going through tools. Right. So network management, again, you can make whatever changes that you want on the management. Power management allows you to reboot and shut down the solid server. When you go to tools, this is where you can configure the start a shell, configure the time zone, and access some troubleshooting and factory defaulting over here. Right. When you set factory default, you will be asked to confirm, and you will need to type this word confirm here, and then it will automatically perform the factory reset. Take note, when you perform a factory reset, everything will be set to default, but the license remains. So you do not need to reinstall the license.